at the moment in the Southeast, we have a problem. There's a dear problem we ordinarily are not looking at. There's a thing we are beginning to fail to tell ourselves the truth about. There's a problem, there's a problem, there's a problem, and we must be ready and willing to want to solve them. We must be willing and we must be ready to go full, with our full chest, all out, to ordinarily see to it that things ordinarily get better. Else, nothing is going to happen. Look at the situation in the Southeast for instance, especially in recent times, the kidnappings happening down there. It's been spiraling for a while now, and many persons have been telling themselves, I've been selling this idea of it's been the Fulanis, it's been a whole lot of other stuff down there. As true as that is, we also need to tell ourselves that the possibility of our own brothers killing our own brothers and sisters is possible. The possibility of our own sisters killing our own brothers and sisters is possible. The possibility of our own brothers and sisters blackmailing our own brothers and sisters is equally possible. Because at the heart of all of this is the fact that we are humans. And when we ordinarily want to tell ourselves that we aren't human enough to ordinarily harm ourselves, then we are calling into question what ordinarily constitutes our own humanity. The activities is born out of a lot of things. Let's be clear on this. It's born out of a lot of things, and we don't want to start debating on that. Economic insecurity, unrest left and right, front and back. I had a conversation with my good brother, Michael Chidoziem Chukudera, and he pointed out a lot of stuff as to how we ordinarily can grow and how we ordinarily aren't ready to do that now into the future, and what we ordinarily must do going forward, because it is very, very disheartening.
Yes. Yes.
That's a video of somebody recently kidnapped in Nigeria. That's a video of somebody's son, somebody's brother, maybe somebody's husband. That's a picture, a motion picture. That's a video of a human being being shot at, the bone is broken, shattered. The person might bleed to death. In a country that ordinarily claims to have leaders, a country that ordinarily claims to have people thinking in the right way, a country that claims to be the giant of Africa, a country that should ordinarily be leading the charge. It breaks my heart, to say the least. The number of persons that ordinarily go in, the number of persons that get to die daily in a place like Nigeria, the number of persons that get to be slaughtered in Igbo land, the number of persons that get to be killed the way they get to be killed. And specifically, I'm going to be restricted to talking about the East, because that's where this incident ordinarily took place. What about it? If you go to the comment section down here, you find many persons coming up with the argument that, they are not Igbos and all that. But what I want to draw attention to is what Anthony Nonso Dim said. And he pointed this out sometimes this year. It was a concept and the idea that the Igbos should begin to accept the reality that Igbos are capable of killing themselves. And you being killed by your own brother, by your own sister, it shouldn't make you put in and about all of the blame to the purported Fulanis now and the whole concept of the unknown gunmen. This denial would just further fuel animosity and give them the chance to ordinarily continue to go about the activities they tend to carry on a daily. What should be a thing of concern here for us? What should be a thing of concern for you? A thing of concern for me, and a thing of concern for all well meaning Nigerians is the concept and the fact that we as a people must begin to allow ourselves the chance to begin to hold ourselves accountable than continue to do this blame game we ordinarily tend to do. What we don't want to do and what we don't want to see happen to us is we coming to deny this particular stuff. And a concept that comes close to my mind here is Odysseus and the one-eyed Cyclops. When he got trapped with such a beast, and the events that took place down there, if you listen to Odysseus, you come to see the idea of not being able to name his name. When the Cyclops asked, "Who are you?" he said, "I am nobody." So that when he got blinded and when he got attacked by Odysseus and his men, he ordinarily said, "Nobody is killing me. No man is killing me. No man is killing me. No man is killing me." And who is Norman and what is Norman in this particular concept? It is a concept of not being able to name the problem. At the moment in the southeast, we have a problem. There's a dear problem we ordinarily are not looking at. There's a thing we are beginning to fail to tell ourselves the truth about. There's a problem, there's a problem, there's a problem, and we must be ready and willing to want to solve them. We must be willing and we must be ready to go full, with our full chest, all out, to ordinarily see to it that things ordinarily get better. Else, nothing is going to happen. Look at the situation in the southeast for instance, especially in recent times. The kidnappings happening down there, it's been spiraling for a while now, and many persons have been telling themselves, I've been selling this idea of it's been the Fulanis, it's been a whole lot of other stuff down there. As true as that is, we also need to tell ourselves that the possibility of our own brothers killing our own brothers and sisters is possible. The possibility of our own sisters killing our own brothers and sisters is possible. The possibility of our own brothers and sisters blackmailing our own brothers and sisters is equally possible. Because at the heart of all of this is the fact that we are humans. And when we ordinarily want to tell ourselves that we aren't human enough to ordinarily harm ourselves, then we are calling into question what ordinarily constitutes our own humanity. The activities is born out of a lot of things. Let's be clear on this. It's born out of a lot of things, and we don't want to start debating on that. Economic insecurity, unrest left and right, front and back. I had a conversation with my good brother, Michael Chidoziem Chukudera, and he pointed out a lot of stuff as to how we ordinarily can grow and how we ordinarily aren't ready to do that now into the future, and what we ordinarily must do going forward, because it is very, very disheartening. It is very, very disheartening, from Nihio Sundare to the different persons that have written about what ordinarily is the idea of keeping quiet when injustice is going on. We come to see that today it might not be your turn, but tomorrow you will not escape it. You can't escape forever. If it doesn't hit you, it will hit your son. If it doesn't hit your son, it will hit your daughter. So that when the problems continue to grow, we ordinarily must call ourselves to order. You remember our Madam Navdak, Madam Dora Akunyili. You get to see the story that we were told while growing up that at the point when traders, particularly from our own clan, came into the market and said, "You are a sister now, you are the one in charge. Allow this particular product to ordinarily come into the market, and this is what we have for you." Can you remember what Dora said? Dora said something along these lines. At the moment, if I allow such to happen, I have brothers and sisters, and their children would, one way or the other, go to buy this. I have uncles and aunties, and they will get this. This was even before she started considering the whole idea of the ethical stance one ordinarily should take as to how things ordinarily should be done. And we are short of the likes of Dora in our society. As such things continue to spiral down this way, as such things continue to dwindle, and things continue to go down the way things ordinarily at the moment are going. And we are not even ready to want to start telling ourselves what we must do. The government as a whole must ordinarily come together and sit down and look at the socio-economic challenges being faced by people from the southeast. I am not saying kidnapping is a thing in and about the southeast alone. I am saying, like I said from the beginning of this video, we're going to constrain ourselves to this particular stuff because the video we watched down here is a very, very horrible video. I'm still looking at it right now. And the thing that comes to my mind is that the expectations of the southeast needs to be looked at. Infrastructure down that particular part of the world needs to be paid the necessary, needs to be given the necessary attention it ordinarily deserves. The necessary attention it must be given to ordinarily see to it that life in that part of the world ordinarily comes to make sense. And why do I say this? I say this for a whole lot of reasons. Youths are not employed. What do you want them to do when the rate of unemployment of the youth is so high? When the idea of money has been sold to the youth at a very, very alarming rate. When people just sit down, tell themselves, I will just go meet a dibia, and one thing or the other would happen, and I will become rich. Same thing, I was in conversation also with my brother, Ugochukwu and Nadi, and we spent hours analyzing and looking at the problems that ordinarily is our problem at the moment. The whole idea that the youths need the amount of money they need. The youths don't need the amount of money they need to survive. But we've been able to succeed in telling them that they need this particular amount of money to survive. They need this particular amount of funds to ordinarily make sense of their life. And what happens? We watch them with our own eyes kill themselves. We watch them die because we deceive them and we push them down that particular road. What about the whole idea of we just being so uneducated, to say the least, that in the 21st century we lack a sense of critical thinking to tell us that we must fund education and we must fund it well. That the future of the Southeast is a thing born and sustained by the strength of youth, coupled with the wisdom of old age. And yet, when we look at ourselves, we struggle to tell who is an elder now. It's an elder one who just have money. Who is an elder in Nigeria at the moment? Who will pass for an elder in your community today if they're talking about who is to be an elder? Who will pass for a chief in your community? Is it somebody that wields the ofo well in truth and dignity, or somebody who wields cash and ordinarily go about that? Tell me what ordinarily is stopping us from ordinarily being who we ordinarily supposed to be. Tell me and I will tell you the numerous problems we have at the moment. The problems we have are existentially daring and are saddening at the same time. Do you know how many persons get to die every day for things they ordinarily know nothing about? For things we ordinarily have decided to keep quiet and have always wanted to point accusing fingers to the next tribe, to the next man, to the next woman, as opposed to we telling ourselves that it is possible that these things happening are things our own brothers are capable of doing, are things we must come to terms with and tell ourselves that, you know what, I think we can do better. You know what, I think we can grow. You know what, I think we ordinarily should stand tall and stand strong and stand firm together, as opposed to constantly dividing ourselves. How many persons die? Do you know how many persons die? Do you know how many families get affected? And sometimes, even when it gets to happen to us, we tell ourselves that it is even about the idea of, God's will. They bring up that particular line. It is God's will. God knows best. No, it is not God's will that people should die the way they die, and no man of God should be able to convince you otherwise. It is not God's will that a girl be raped. It is not God's will that she be kidnapped, raped, and killed at the same time. It is not God's will that your brother should be kidnapped and he be released after you must have paid money. Or even if you don't get to pay money and he is being tortured and he is being released and he now heads straight to the church to give testimony. That is not the reason why these things happen to people. Bad things happen to people, good or bad, within the realms of physical machinations and stuff like that, because people have eroded themselves and eroded their minds and purged themselves of reason. And so we find ourselves where we find ourselves. Sad, angry, stupid, annoyed, dying. The way we die. Because we have not looked at the solutions to our problems. Neither are we even ready to answer the call about the questions that must be asked. Who are those guys sponsoring the killings in the Southeast? Is it born in and about completely of external factors? Is it hinged on political agitations here and there? What is happening? Is it driving from a sense of, a deeper sense of lawlessness, or perhaps driven by, a breakdown of authority as to what ordinarily should be the law in the Southeast? What is the problem? Where is it coming from? And if we know where they are coming from, what is stopping us from tackling these problems headlong? What are our leaders doing? What are the guys in office doing? What are the police officers we tend to have in our in our police force doing? What must we do? Because it has grown beyond the agitation for Nnamdi Kanu. It has grown beyond that particular stuff. But even at that, how sometimes will you even be able to beat a child and tell the child how to cry? But come on, my brothers and sisters, if you're a kidnapper, at what cost are you kidnapping people? To what end? To what end? Money? Drawing people's attention to the abnormalities going on in the Southeast? Agitating for Biafra? At what cost can we ordinarily do this? And how many more lives need to be killed and need to die, need to be tortured before we ordinarily come to tell ourselves the truth of our situation? How many? I think the killings are a lot. The killings are enormous. We cannot continue this killing this way. We cannot continue doing things the way we do things, and we want and expect a different result. It doesn't happen. How do you feel when you discover that your own father is kidnapped by another person? How do you feel taking a gun and then pointing it and shooting at somebody? How do you feel? beyond the Southeast now. How do you feel? You know, looking at somebody and looking into their eyes and saying, I'm going to unalive you. How do you feel when you pull the trigger and you actually shoot? You actually hold the gun and or the machete, whatsoever you're using, or the dagger or the knife or the axe, and you're looking at that person into that person's face, and the person is begging you, Biko, 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 Biko. Baharam, even if I didn't offend you, Baharam, Biko. And you stab and you shoot and you pull the trigger and you allow the person die. To what level of insanity and what ordinarily constitutes you allowing yourself being in such a position to ordinarily want to die the way you want to die? Tell me. I want to know. I'll be very, very glad if you can give me an answer. But if you cannot, I want to understand the level of killings going on in the Southeast. And I want to understand when this person picks up this gun, looks at this person's down there, who is the person going to blame? With a gun to his hand, is the person going to blame the state government? And is the state government doing enough? These states surrounding these places and this country we now call Nigeria, and this country we all believe that we all are all equal. To what level of security coverage and patronage do we enjoy? When somebody picks up this gun and looks down on us and say, you know, the state government and the federal government might be struggling to cope, and law enforcement has, become either too weak or too corrupt to effectively address the root causes of this. I am going to multiply this issue. I'm going to shoot you and nothing is going to happen. I'm going to kill you and nothing is going to happen. They are going to blame it on political manipulation. They are going to blame it on, political leverage taken here and there. They will look at it from a religious perspective and a ritualistic standpoint. They're going to look at it that lives are lost and nobody cares. So who are you to live? And even when ransoms will be paid on your head, I will still blast you and I will still kill you and nothing will happen. Nothing. So that we begin to look at the boundaries between crime and political struggles becoming almost blurred. And yet we all say we are Nigerians and we all say we live in a sane country and we all say we live in a good place. No, we don't. We're just going on about deceiving ourselves that we ordinarily are in safe hands and it has not gotten to us, or if it has gotten to us, it's God's will. Extend it a little bit. Leave Aguleri or leave Nkanu. Do as though you are going to Asaba. Extend this particular stuff to a broader Nigerian context, and the situation becomes even more complex. Extend it a little bit up north, and then you see the kidnappings that go on day in and day out. And you see someone like Mike Asukwo come to tell us that ordinarily bandits are already closing schools, are already doing what Boko Haram ordinarily wanted. Schools are being closed. Why are schools being closed? They're being closed because they don't even have the idea of what it means to be in school. How do you stay in school when ordinarily the killings continue to go on? They're just struggling to have a life. And most of the times, they die in vain. They die in vain. So I ask you again, you up north, picking up a rifle, pointing it at your brothers and sisters, telling them, we're going to continue this. Nothing is going to happen. We're all going to blame it on Boko Haram. We're all going to blame it on a lot of things. But life would continue. What about the West? The agitation is happening in different parts of the West. Kidnapping is becoming so rampant. Kidnapping used to be a thing born out of, kidnapping for ransom. Very few persons got killed. I remember vividly in Abakaliki in Waterworks when the owner of Octavia Pharmacy got kidnapped and got killed after paying a ransom, and it leaves you with so much to think about. How things have spiraled nowadays and how we ordinarily are where we ordinarily shouldn't be. And we think there's no problem. And we think everything is fine until it gets to us. And we are not in the streets. And we are not on the streets shouting our voice down and demanding justice. And we are not trying to sow the seed of morality amongst our children. And we are becoming as skeptical as ordinarily we shouldn't be. All in the name of trying to be free thinkers and trying to be free beings. But whatever you think about morality, think about it for the good it can ordinarily do for society. And so, you ask me, the same way I ask you, what is it? Our leaders have failed, Our leaders have failed, our leaders have failed. Our leaders have failed us greatly, badly, and we ordinarily are not willing to want to look at our problems. And we must start looking at them. We must start looking at the things we ordinarily must do. What about strengthening our law enforcement agency? What about cutting corruption in these bodies to stop giving information to outsiders? What about holding our politicians accountable? What about this? What about all of this? What should we say and what shouldn't we say? How should we go? How shouldn't we go? What should we do? What must we do? What mustn't we do to make sense of our life? What about looking at the root causes of our problems? What about education? What about making it compulsory that every child goes to school and every child is given an opportunity to go to school to a particular age, capable of thinking and capable of reasoning well? What about that? What about teaching a culture of sincerity and a culture of hard work? What about creating jobs and creating opportunities for people who are duly of the age to work? What about this? You want God to come and tell you this? You want God to come and tell you this? What about communities' involvements from different parts of the country, collaborating and government holding local governments and village leadership, local leadership to account? Hold them tight and hold them strong and say, you must make sure that this place is the way it's supposed to be and all that. What about we addressing superstition and cultism? We don't want to think about this. We don't think cultism is a thing that needs to be talked about. We don't think cultism is a thing that needs to be looked at. We don't think that superstition ordinarily should be addressed. We don't think about this. No. Why should we even be talking about superstition? But what about we addressing that particular stuff? What about we looking at things ordinarily how things should be? What about we telling ourselves that the superstitions we get to believe, they're too much? Awele, Okite, and the different stuff we get to see down there in different tribes, in different cultures, from Igala down to Abeokuta, down to Ibadan, down to Oshogbo, down to Ogun, down to Ajakuta, down to the different places we ordinarily go seeking this out. The Cameroons and the different places we go to seek powers. If you can go through that stress to get the powers, you can as well become hardworking. But I know the odds are against you, but does it demand human life? Does it demand vandalization? Does it demand we being so stupid? What about the political will? What about the political will? What about the political will and the sense of governance? What about our government? As well as we, supposed followers. hinging ourselves on a contract that ordinarily will see to it that our freedom is not jeopardized, as well as we as a people coming to terms with what we must ordinarily do. What about collaborating across regions? What about gathering intelligence from different parts of the world and different parts of the region? What about our police officers doing the things they ordinarily should do? What about we growing tall and growing strong and growing tough? What about this? What about we telling ourselves that, injustice tolerated anywhere? It's a threat to justice everywhere. What about we looking at ourselves and you say, we must build trust amongst ourselves? We mustn't continue to tell ourselves that it is the Igbos that is trying to destroy Nigeria, or the Hausas that betrayed us, or the Yorubas that betrayed us, and we continue with these narratives alone and fail to realize that we are more similar than divided. But in the long run, it is you and I that get to suffer it. When the elephants in the room dance rather than fight, even when they fight still as they do in our political circle, it is you and I that stay in this cycle, rotating round and round and round and round and round about, under the same bondage and under the same stuff we ordinarily do today, tomorrow, into the future. It is you and I that go about killing ourselves. It is you and I that go about harming ourselves and doing ourselves a disfavor we ordinarily shouldn't be doing. It is you and I that need saving. It is you and I that must collaborate. It is you and I that must build trust. It is you and I that must come to the realization that fighting corruption and fighting kidnapping in Nigeria, particularly in the southeast, where we started from, will require a comprehensive and a broader solution as opposed to what we ordinarily want to tell ourselves at the moment. Because it takes two to tango, and the more we keep quiet, the more the damage is done. The more we keep quiet, the more we tell ourselves that, that guy lying down there on the floor, that guy being shot at, the lady being killed, and every other thing that ordinarily happens in the country doesn't concern me. Why should I be looking at forming efforts to, reform security, look at economic disparity and, confront cultural beliefs that, perpetuate evil? Why is that my business? Why is that my business that the person lying on the floor about to die is a thing for my concern? How is that my business? Am I the government? How is that my business? Am I the person that's supposed to ordinarily come save the world or what? The person lying on the floor there dying, trying to die. Who is he to me? Shouldn't the government, look for ways to, do collaboration with the people? And must I be actively engaged in the whole particular shenanigans that is happening around? My brother, it's a matter of time. It will hit you. And it will hit you so hard and it will hit you so bad that you will not even know how to cry. It's a matter of time before it gets to you, before it gets to me. These economic disparities we see around, these things we play with, these stuffs we tell ourselves, this is politics. This is how politics is being run. I saw people posting about Fubara and Wike as it concerns how politics ordinarily should be done. It's either you are all in to fight and tear down or you are out. And I come to understand how Machiavellian almost everybody is becoming these days. It's in and about killing and tearing and all that. What about being a gentleman? What about doing things the way we ordinarily supposed to do them as human beings? For how long are we going to continue looking at our lives, telling ourselves the lies we ordinarily have come to believe over time, and then continue with them? How do we want to respond to the crime in our society if we continue like this? For how long? Don't ask me. Ask yourself. Ask your father, ask your mother, ask those who need to be asked. Because in the long run, it is you and I. It is you and I that need saving. It is you and I that must be saved. It is you and I that must come to tell ourselves what we must tell ourselves and how we ordinarily should grow and to go. I am Biringkpa bin Emeka. I am your brother, the mendicant, strolling through this world with you. Nigeria must grow. The kidnappings ought to stop. They are one too many. Please share this video with your loved ones, share with your mother, share with your family members, share with your girlfriends and your boyfriends. Share with your friends, share with your supposed enemies, share with a fellow Nigerian, share with an international, share with people around the world, and let's continue this conversation, this supposed boring conversation as it concerns what ordinarily should be, how we ordinarily should live life. See you next time.